Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Mace. I'm coming to you from Canada. Hope you're having a wonderful day. And to lead off this video, I will tell a short story about when I was in Mexico fairly recently, and we were down there, and I kid you not, there was this American family. They were on this bus. We were taking a bus out to Sayulitas or Sayulita. I can't remember the exact name of where we were going. That is beside the point. But the point is, we were on a public transit bus in Mexico, and there was this American family that were literally like an SNL skit. It was like a parody skit. Seriously, it was a family of four: mom, dad, son, daughter. They were all wearing matching like football jerseys. I don't know what team it was, but they had like matching jerseys on with like America hats and with Southern accents, and they were berating the Mexican bus driver because they didn't speak English, or at least didn't speak English up to their liking. And they were just being totally obnoxious, totally inconsiderate, and just completely rude. Eventually, a group of us just told, get off the bus. Just get off the bus. That's not their problem that you guys either got on the wrong bus or didn't do your research about directions properly. You're in a foreign, you're not in America right now. And I was shocked because it was just the very definition of the stereotype I think that a lot of us have in our heads of American entitlement around the world, and probably a big reason American tourists are not necessarily always welcomed. I think Americans are welcomed if they're considerate and kind and nice people. Of course, it's fine, totally fine. But it's the entitlement and arrogance, I think, that really rubs a lot of people the wrong way. Let's check out this video. We're on TikTok. We're checking out some videos. Let's go.
Shefa here, and welcome to part 21 of American Tourists in the Wild.
Part 21. It's a lot of parts.
Had a middle-aged Texas man ask me if the Pacific Ocean freezes in the winter. These interactions show just how underfunded their public education is. I can hear the Hawaiians crying. I was in France and had two Americans ordered a sandwich in front of me and complained about that the waitress isn't able to speak English fluently.
There you go. Another literal example of what I just talked about at the beginning of the video. Americans ordering something in France and then complaining that the waitress doesn't speak English fluently. Can you imagine that level of entitlement, that level of arrogance of being in a foreign country and expecting the people to speak your language? Just complete insanity, really.
I'm going to say two things here. Firstly, everyone on Earth needs to respect learning multiple languages. Even the tiniest ability to communicate in a language that is not your mother tongue is an achievement and should be celebrated.
I certainly agree with her. I think a lot of us Canadians, especially, and I'm just telling from my experience, a lot of us only speak one language, and it's kind of sad for sure. There is a reality to that we don't really need to use any other languages. We basically just speak English. I'm out on the west coast of Canada, and it's primarily English, but we have a lot of first, second gen immigrants, and some of them still speak the languages from their countries of origin. But once their kids are here for a generation or two, they just speak English too. So it's in Quebec and some of the eastern provinces, there might be some more French, certainly. But I do think it's valuable to learn other languages. And I did have the opportunity to become fluent and learn French in school. It just wasn't something I really followed up on. We had the opportunity to take Spanish courses. I really want to learn Filipino. I want to learn maybe some German. I think learning languages probably gets more difficult as you get older, right? There's one thing to that. Like, you want to teach people when they're kids, because when their brains are like sponges, it's the best opportunity to learn. But yeah, I think a lot of people in North America are just speaking one language, which is completely different than in Europe, where so many people are able to speak English and multiple languages.
People from the US and the English-speaking world in general famously are not offered very good opportunities to learn a second or third language. And when many native English speakers meet people who speak English as a second or third or fourth language and it's not amazing, they get frustrated or assume that this person is not intelligent.
That's crazy.
Not good.
No.
Secondly, I'm going to flip this for a second, and I say this as a fluent French speaker. The French, particularly Parisians, have a superiority thing about their English-speaking abilities, and they will bully the ever-loving hell out of any English speaker who even attempts to speak French with the best intentions. And then they'll go on and be like, oh, it's okay, and I'll speak English, and their English is not great, but for whatever reason, it's okay for a French person to speak broken English, and they should be respected for that. But it's not okay for an English-speaking person to speak broken French.
I will say that in Canada, there's certainly a sentiment that you'll see expressed where people will essentially say that French speakers in Quebec are snobbish when you're there as an English speaker, and if you don't know French. I've heard stories of them not even serving you, but I think more so it's just dirty looks and kind of eye rolls and a general smuggish snobbishness is what the sentiment would be. I've only been to Montreal once, Quebec once, but I didn't really experience that. That said, I was with my brother who kind of did a lot of the communication because he spoke French and he was living there at the time, and he had taken French classes because he wanted to learn the language. He's now since moved away from there, but so I didn't really have to do much communication. And that was just a young kid, and there was a lot of things that I wasn't aware of, and I was still learning a lot of social conduct that was politeness, I guess.
Anyway, rant over. I once had an American breakdown when he realized Swedish was a language and not just English with an accent. I want to know what happened to this guy.
So do I.
To specifically give him the impression that Swedish is English. When Swedish people speak English, I mean...
How do you listen to... Like, was he listening to a person speak Swedish and then he thought it was English with an accent? Because Swedish doesn't sound like English at all.
Scandinavian people in general are known for having stunning English language capabilities. Sometimes, you know, an American wouldn't be able to tell that a Swedish person is actually not an American. A moon anecdote, my favorite. Girl, nothing beats the one time an American girl asked me if we can see the moon from Europe during my exchange year in New Orleans. Why wouldn't Europeans be able to see the moon? It's like the same reason that, you know, that person thought Hungarians didn't get rainbows.
We own the moon. Let me tell you, it's beautiful. It's great. We're going to get to the moon very strongly. It's going to be fantastic. All right, next one.
Why do American tourists have such a terrible reputation abroad? I'm sure you're all very aware of the stereotype of the Americans that don't learn worldwide geography nearly enough during basic schooling. That is true to some extent, but this goes far beyond that. Let's do a story time. I lived in France for a little bit more than 9 years, traveled to quite a few different European countries, and almost every American tourist that I met while I was there was trying to go above and beyond and be extra polite and make an extra effort, even if they were using Google Translate, to speak the language because they didn't want to push that stereotype or fall into the stereotype of the rude American. There were a few notable exceptions, but you have buttheads and idiots in every single country. There's not a single country where everybody is just super polite and super cool. But one day I was...
She's right, but we're talking stereotypes here.
in a
Get
little
on board.
cafe in Montpellier, and I overheard this couple that was speaking in English to the restaurant. I assume he was the manager or some sort of assistant clerk, something important. He was talking to them at the cash register, trying to explain things to them. They were refusing to try to speak French. The manager offered to get out Google Translate, and they're like, no, speak English. And they were forcing English on this guy, right? And so the manager, I can tell, is getting a little bit frustrated. This couple is being incredibly rude. And I hear the manager tell his other work colleague, like, oh my gosh.
So I think we know where this story is going. And it certainly connects to what I was talking about at the beginning of the video with that family in Mexico on the bus. They're essentially just an extreme Karen mentality which spreads through the entire family. So, people will act like they've been raised. And if their parents are Karens, their grandparents are probably Karens. They got Karen energy going back generations. Karens and Darrens. Or just, we don't discriminate. Karen can be a male or female. I know, is it Darren? Is that the male version of a Karen? But we all know these people. We all see these people. If you've ever worked in retail or any sort of customer service job, you have to deal with a lot of Karens. And there's two types of people. There's a person that is going to receive inconvenient news from a customer service agent or customer service person. And they're going to be disappointed. They might sigh for a second. Or they might laugh out of exasperation. But, using humor in the face of, frustration, I think is a good coping strategy. Solid, but you'll see those different types. I worked at airlines for many years, and when there was nothing worse than having to cancel a flight. We felt terrible when we had to cancel flights. We didn't love canceling flights. It's terrible. You have all these people that are trying to get where they got to go. Some of them have connecting flights. Some of them have appointments. They have things that they need to get to, and now they're either going to miss them, or they got to get a hotel. Maybe they got to get a hotel for the night, or they got to stay around the airport for hours waiting. But you'll get people that just, what can you do? There's no use. There's no productive outcome to screaming or yelling at this frontline agent who had no input in the flight getting canceled. Right? There's no point of becoming enraged and stressing yourself out and aging yourself. We all know how much stress can affect health. But living in that type of anger is just... it's not sustainable. I don't know how Karens do it. How they go around life just with a real lack of sense of humor, humanity. So, let's go. Next one.
This shit is so deeply embarrassing, and I do not mean a bunch of American tourists wearing red berets in Paris. I mean filming a bunch of tourists who are so happy to be in the city that you are lucky enough to live in and are maybe committing the crime of laughing a little loudly. Et pour les Français qui vont peut-être tomber sur cette vidéo, je suis désolée, mais je préfère largement un touriste qui rit un peu trop fort qu'un Parisien prétentieux insupportable qui les filme, quoi. But anyway, this video, I think, demonstrates two things that are very much worth discussing, so let's discuss them. Number one, we have to stop fucking filming strangers in public just to humiliate them.
I would tend to agree. Well, it depends what the strangers are doing. I don't like when people are filmed who are minding their own business, which it sounds like these tourists are doing. They're just having lunch. They're not bothering anybody. They're not doing anything wrong. They're literally happy. They're having fun. So why are we filming them and trying to shame them online? I would agree with that. However, the flip side, obviously, is when people are being horrible, let's film them and shame them, right? Or if people are being discriminatory or racist or just terrible human beings, sure. But people that are having fun or dancing, or let the people have fun, have a sense of humor, have a sense of humanity, man. It's all good.
It is one thing if you are doing something genuinely disruptive or abusive and deserve to be held accountable, like if someone is being horrendous to a service worker in public, that probably deserves to be publicly
100%.
shamed. But we have gotten way too
100%.
comfortable filming and then publicly disseminating people for the crime of being cringe. This video literally has millions of views and millions of people making fun of them. And yes, many Americans...
You know what? Be cringe. Life is too short to worry about people thinking that you're cringe. Do stuff. Create. Put it out there. Throw stuff against the wall. See what sticks. Like, have fun, man. Conversate. Look people in the eye. Try to tell that joke. Even if it's stupid, if it's silly, if it's cringe. It's still going to make people laugh. Use your brain. Think. Why are we... Yeah, I agree. So I think she's making some really valid points about social media for sure. When people get shamed for literally just not doing anything wrong, that's a problem. And the person that's filming is the person with the issue.
American tourists are cringe, and also some of them are quite loud. But as someone who's pretty much exclusively lived in very tourist-heavy cities, plenty of tourists are annoying. And if we're going to go for the consistently loudest, I think Australians and Brits are also up there, personally. But that's not even the biggest problem to me. Like, the biggest problem, and the one that genuinely bums me out in this video, is like, how sad are we to be making fun of someone for being so overjoyed to be in the city that we live in? Like, is it corny to wear a red beret? Sure, but that's also human beings expressing excitement for a place they've been wanting to go and getting to celebrate it with their friends. Like, when I'm going to see a Broadway show and walk through Times Square and see a group of tourists, like, taking selfies of themselves all wearing I Heart New York shirts, like, I think that is fucking adorable. And it makes me even more grateful to have the privilege of spending my days in a city that people will save up their entire lives to visit once. Anyway, I hate this kind of video and I wish it would stop. This shit is so deeply...
So, yeah, I agree pretty much with her entire video. I like her, how she explained that. It was good.
We're American tourists. Of course we can only speak English.
We're American tourists. Of course you can hear our conversation from across the restaurant.
We're American tourists. Of course we don't try the local food.
We're American tourists. Of course we don't know the history about the place we're visiting.
We're American tourists. Of course when we leave the country, our families think we're in grave danger.
We're American tourists. Of course we don't know how our government meddled in your country's politics.
We're American tourists. Of course we don't need a visa to visit a country that we can't even point out on a map.
We're American tourists. Of course we don't leave the resort without a guide.
We're American tourists. Of course we're shocked by clean and efficient public transportation. We're American.
Okay, so just a bunch of very plain American tourist stereotypes. These stereotypes could apply to Canada just as easily. You know, we have to admit it, you guys. Any Canadians watching, we got to admit it. Like, there's Canadians. Well, look what's going on in Alberta right now. We have there is a good percentage of Canadians that are aligned with Trump and Trumpian politics and kind of just want to separate. Like the Alberta separatist movement. I don't know how much steam it's picked up, but it's certainly been making waves in the Canadian zeitgeist, and I think we've seen that pretty obviously. And just anti-Canadian sentiment and them being attracted to it.
Tourism collapse. America First has cost the U.S. $21 billion just in 2025. If you did not know, we are being boycotted by the entire world. We are now losing at least $20 billion a year. But let me tell you what that means for the U.S. economy. I
don't know what percentage of that would be, like, when you factor it into the GDP. Is it like 2%, maybe 4% of their economy? I don't know. Like the tourism industry. Probably somewhere between 2 to 4%. I don't really know. But I think the numbers bear out what she's saying. It's correct. Canadians, Europeans, people from all around the world, really, have expressed that they are finding alternative places to go. Whereas places like New York, California, there's so many places in the States that my wife and I want to go. We're kind of taking a break right now. Just with everything going on, we don't want to support the US right now when their president is, doing his darndest to attack Canada economically, and making disrespectful comments about Canadians, about our history, about our allies, going back on deals, reneging on deals, calling the Prime Minister governor, continually talking about Canada being the 51st state, and that being echoed by the sycophants that surround Trump. He's kind of stopped doing that lately. He's got other problems going on. Epstein, how about that? How about them Epstein files? Let's just have a war with Iran. Hey Israel, you want us to attack Iran? Okay. Kushner, you're friends with Netanyahu, right? Yeah. Hey Donald, we need you to go after Iran. Saudi Arabia and Israel really want you to, and you got to get it done. You got to get it done. Do our bidding like a good boy.
We create about a couple 100,000 jobs just from tourism. The second thing is it stimulates thousands and thousands of jobs. For instance, like Las Vegas, the tourist industry is number one. So if the tourists are not coming here, you can imagine how that's going to affect the entire Las Vegas area. And yes, we are all interconnected globally and within our state, city, and the United States of America. Did you know that Canadians spend $20 billion alone? Just that group, they're the largest group every single year. That creates 150,000 jobs and stimulates thousands and thousands more. And right now they're boycotting us. They're boycotting us because of how horribly we have treated them. You know,
So a direct result is, or well, I'll just tell you myself directly, we've canceled 2 trips. There was 2 separate events that we were going to go to. And we just said, you know what? We're not going to go down there and spend a couple $1,000 to invest in the US economy. Like, why? We're going to go somewhere else. And we went somewhere else and spent our money there. And it was great. So we don't regret it. We regret that the US is not as attractive a destination right now, but hopefully eventually we can, because I have a brother that lives down there, so he lives and we'd love to visit, but just right now, no, it's all good. All right, let's go to the next one. You know, I think what she says has some reality to it for sure.
I'm noticing a lot of people taking the piss out of the American tourists on Irish social media. And honestly, I like to take the piss out of an American as much as the next person. Oil. But I have to say, I like when the Americans visit. I think they're fucking cute. They traverse the streets of Ireland in these hordes. There's always about 80 of them. Somehow it's all one family and 2 people they know from work. They're always getting onto some sort of a fucking bus. Who knows where they go on the bus, and who knows if they ever come back. They're always really excited when they tell you where they've been. Oh, we just went to this amazing museum. And I pretend I've been there as well. Oh yeah, that museum is brilliant. The famine was brilliant. They'll be standing there in the middle of the street taking pictures of the most beautiful building, and it's just somewhere they sell vapes. Leave them alone. They think there's fucking fairies and everything, and it makes them happy. Follow me. I'm Julie.
It makes them happy. Hey, this guy's funny. I like him.
If you're an American tourist currently vacationing in Mexico, just don't post. Like, respectfully, just stop. I'm not trying to be mean or to virtue signal, but your hysteria genuinely makes things worse for Mexico. Mexico as a whole has not fallen. It is not under narco control. The airports are still functioning. They're flooding the algorithm with false information and fear-mongering. And now if I want to check and see what's actually happening in Jalisco, all I'm seeing is Americans freaking out about whether they should cancel their trip to Cabo. If you're an American...
Well, false information, misinformation, it spreads like wildfire because it gets clicks, it gets eyeballs, and people love fear. If it bleeds, it leads. Fox News. Let's air this story about, hey, look, they set some cars on fire in Puerto Vallarta. Let's make this the headline story here. War in Mexico. U.S. citizens trapped have to evacuate the streets out of fear of narco retaliation. My parents were actually down there for this latest. I don't know. Is she talking about the latest one? Where there were some issues and they killed that narco. My parents were down there and they said, yeah, it was like 24 hours of kind of craziness, a little bit. Craziness as in like they couldn't. The airports were, I think the airport was shut down. You know, there were certainly things happening, but I think the media, as always, exaggerates and spreads fear, certainly.
Tell me you're American without telling me you're American, Rome edition. High socks and linen shirt, definitely American.
Wait, high socks and linen shirt? Oi! Got a hungry cat out there.
Telling me you're American, Rome edition. High socks and linen shirt, definitely American. Going on a Sunday to the Pantheon and waiting 5 hours to see the chapel for 20 seconds, 75% are American, 100%. Roma hat, definitely American. Taking a taxi to go around Rome, considering that you take a car even to go to the toilet, I'm pretty sure that's American. It is a general rule that if he wears flip-flops, there's a high chance he's American. However, if he wears sandals and white socks, there's a high chance that he's from Germany. It's the Jesus Christ walking on water vibe. Oh guys, this is pure satire. Here's another thing. If they eat in front of a major site in a restaurant, there's a super high chance that they're American. Why? Because they accept the lower quality food as it is still very high quality compared to many places in America. They want to take a picture with the sites. Generally speaking, the number one rule in Italy is never eat in front of monuments or something because you know it's going to be a tourist trap. Tell me.
There you go.
Yeah, but just building on the American introducing themselves as their state thing, I just find it really presumptuous that you think everyone else knows where you live.
Introducing themselves as their state? What? Hi, I'm Arizonian. From Arizona. My name's Bill.
Yeah, but just building on the American introducing themselves as their state thing, I just find it really
Introducing themselves
presumptuous that
as their
you
state?
think everyone else knows where you live. Especially in Asia, I don't think everyone I've met knew where Houston was. And also I noticed it mostly in Italy when there was this huge group of like this southern old group of people, and they just said they're from St. Louis to me and my mom when she asked. And I'm pretty good at geography. I didn't even initially know where that was from. I just knew it was in the South. And then when they asked us, we said, oh, well, we're from Nova Scotia, and they had no idea where that was. So do you assume that everyone knows where you live and that you don't educate yourself on where anyone else is from? It does feel a little bit selfish to me. However, there's a lot of other stereotypes of Americans when traveling that have also proven to be true. So, yeah, but just build.
So she's a fellow Canadian from Nova Scotia. Yeah, that's interesting. Introducing yourself as your... I don't know if she misspoke and meant city. She said somebody mentioned they were from Houston, and then somebody said, oh, I'm from St. Louis or Houston, which are cities. Houston, Texas. St. Louis, Missouri, I think.
Or Italy. That's what he wants to do. He's like, if I can figure it out, I would like to friends who are like in Italy and go around. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, do it.
So a 25-pound a hot chocolate to hear an American's whole life story. Wait for the creme. That wasn't a very good Hans Landa.
It's wild. Or Italy. That's what he
Put in.
Okay, so they're making a joke about being able to hear the American tourists talking. I do find that when I'm at coffee shops or restaurants, I don't really like people overhearing my conversations. So I'll tend to be pretty quiet or just wait until we're in a quieter spot, out of earshot of people. So.
Put in.
I've had the time of my life.
No.
I've had the time of my...
You know, she would maybe apply to that thing like people doing cringe, but they're happy. However, that's annoyingly loud.
This is American Tourister's most popular carry-on luggage. It's made from one...
American Tourister? Is it a company?
If you are not a U.S. citizen, don't come to this country. If you are here and you're not a U.S. citizen, I don't care what kind of documentation you have, and I don't care how long you're staying, whether it's for a week or years, go. If you can go, go. And I know this is what they want, and I hate it because I love to be like, resist. But ending up in an ICE detention facility is not an act of resistance. And it does not matter if you are white passing. It does not matter how smart you are or what you're contributing, or if you're just visiting and you're a tourist. Don't. It's not safe here. We're not safe. They are detaining U.S. citizens. They are detaining tourists. There was a 28-year-old backpacker, a young woman, who is now in an ICE detention facility.
Yeah, the thing with ICE is pretty wild. And I have seen videos of them literally just racially profiling people. There's a dude at the gas station just like filling up his car, but he was brown, so they approached him and said, it's essentially, papers, please. Papers, please. That, like, totally surreal, kind of. And scary, I'm sure, if you live in the States. Yeah. Like, just because you got to prove your citizenship, you're just at the gas station filling up the car, and you have 4 or 5 masked agents approach and demand your papers and threaten detainment if you can't prove that you're an American. Well, what type of American are you? I did watch that film Civil War recently. I found it interesting because the movie was apolitical. And you knew that from the beginning because the premise is that the American president, who is, I would say, kind of a Trump analog, but you have the Western forces in the film. I'm just going to end this video on a little review of Civil War. You have the Western forces, which is California and Texas, and they have formed an alliance against this authoritarian president. And so right off the bat, you kind of know the director is making a statement that this isn't really about partisan politics. I think the film is kind of about where extremely divisive political polarization and volatility leads, and that it does potentially lead to civil war, and eventually, no matter which side is being tyrannical, there will be pushback eventually, and it will not be good. I thought it was a pretty good film. It was also the themes of war journalists and, capturing events and photos in war zones. The effect that has on those journalists. I just thought it was interesting that the director was making this statement about, because it wasn't like anti-MAGA or it wasn't critical of the left or right, really. It was more critical of extreme political polarization and dehumanization of the other side. I think was kind of at least part of the message. Going after people because they lean a certain political way or make a political statement that you don't like. And I think criticism, 100%, criticize all you want. But when we lose a general civility, there's certainly some worrying times ahead. All right, I'll leave it at that. We'll see you on the next one, my friends. Peace out.